Hello, this time I would like to share an experiment with a rather capricious pigment, Cobalt Cerulean Blue. I will be making oil paint from scratch. The pigment index is PB36. The binding medium for this pigment will be safflower oil, with a very small addition of stand linseed oil. I will talk a bit more about the oils in a moment. The tools I will use are a tempered glass plate and a glass muller. I have already shown how to prepare and polish a glass plate for paint grinding on my YouTube channel. You will find a link at the end of this video. For precise oil dosing, I will use medical syringes. Safety is worth mentioning separately. Gloves and a face mask are essential, and good ventilation is important, without strong air movement. First, I place the desired amount of dry pigment onto the glass plate. I form a small indentation, a crater in the center of the pigment pile. Then I add a small amount of safflower oil using a syringe. Using a palette knife, I carefully mix the pigment with the oil, gradually adding more until a reasonably uniform paste is formed. Once I am roughly satisfied with the consistency, I add a very small amount of stand linseed oil. I want to emphasize this very little, approximately 10% of the total oil content. Why use this particular oil combination? Safflower oil is lighter in color and significantly less prone to yellowing or darkening over time. However, it also has a disadvantage. When dry, it forms a weaker and less elastic paint film compared to linseed oil. Because of this brittleness, there is a higher risk of premature cracking or even delamination of the paint layer over time. Safflower oil is also very slow drying, which is not always a drawback in oil painting. Drying can be accelerated during painting by using appropriate mediums. To compensate for the brittleness of safflower oil, I add a small amount of stand linseed oil, which creates a more elastic film and increases viscosity and gloss. When mixing with a palette knife, it is very important to control the thickness of the paint mass. It is better to keep it slightly on the dry side. During grinding with a muller, the oil will further coat each pigment particle, and the paint will naturally become more fluid. This is precisely why grinding is necessary. If too much oil has been added, the consistency can be corrected by incorporating a small amount of dry pigment. Once the paint mass is ready for grinding, I move it to another area of the glass plate or onto a separate surface. I grind only small amounts at a time. This is physically easier and results in better pigment dispersion. Using slow circular motions, I grind the paint with the muller. Every few passes, I lift the muller, collect the paint from its edges and from the glass plate, and prepare it again for further grinding. I repeat this cycle 5 to 6 times for each portion of paint. The more thoroughly the paint is ground, the better the pigment particles are wetted by the oil. After grinding the entire batch in small portions, I collect all the paint in the center of the plate and grind it once more. At this point, I should mention that this experiment was not entirely successful, and I will skip the final procedure. I will explain why. I added slightly too much linseed oil, which made the paint overly stringy, and introduced an unnecessary enamel-like gloss. That said, the paint will still be perfectly usable, and its quality has not been compromised. Before transferring the paint into a tube, it is very important to allow it to settle, or perhaps better said, to mature. For this, the entire paint mass can be placed onto plastic film, tightly wrapped to exclude air, and left for several hours, or preferably overnight in a cool place. A refrigerator works well, but not a freezer. After that, the paint can be ground once more with the muller and then transferred into a tube or use it directly on the palette. Do not forget to label the tube with the pigment index and oil composition. It is also to be very helpful to apply a small brush stroke of the paint onto the tube itself to show the true color. To finish, here is a small paint test on canvas. I will mix the paint with a medium, lighten it with titanium white, and also mix it with a light cadmium red. The cadmium red, by the way, is also handmade, based on linseed oil, with a small addition of Venetian medium containing natural white beeswax. In that case, the medium was used as a plasticizer. And after all this, cerulean blue really is a beautiful color. That is all for this time. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.